Hi everybody, welcome to Self Improvement. This is Vivianne Tran and I'm so grateful you're tuning in with me today. Our goal to this show is to introduce people to you and different techniques that will help you to achieve a happier life. Today guest we have Gabrielle Kazab. He is a very talented cinema photographer based in Brisbane, Australia. We have worked together for about 10 years on projects for Microsoft, Queensland Health, Queensland Police. Gabrielle is here to share his experience with meditations, mindfulness, and some techniques he has found helpful to reduce stress and anxiety. Thank you so much, Gabrielle, for joining me today. What's meditation improve in your daily life for you, and how you've got started in the journey and how do you know about it, and what sort of technique you use when you first started, and what you do now, what you practice now, and how you find it has helped you in your daily life.
Well, I think, it's a long story to be honest, but I think I meditated when I was a child, somewhere between the age of 4 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was like something that happened naturally. I didn't even think about it. It wasn't really called meditation, but it was, I'm now aware that there is meditation, contemplation, and inquiry.
Yep.
And all of those things are designed to slow down the mind.
Yep.
So if you meditate properly, if you contemplate, or if you inquire properly, the activity in the mind slows down. And then there is clarity. There's increased clarity in the senses, there's increased clarity in the mind. And then you can really understand the world around you, and you can really understand yourself in a much better way. So we can't do that, I've noticed, if the mind is really busy and thinking a lot. And it kind of leads us astray as well. So to me, this seems to be 3 forms of meditation, like I said. And as a child, I was probably a pretty natural contemplator. And I think that my dad used to think that I was daydreaming. And he used to call me a philosopher in a negative way. Yeah. So eventually I gave it up because I wanted to be like my dad. So I forgot about it. From maybe the age of 7, I stopped doing it, and got lost in the world, studies and whatever the world throws at you. And later in life, I actually came across Eckhart Tolle. He has a book called The Power of Now. And I read his story, and I thought, oh my God, one of the experiences he's had is what I had when I was maybe 7 years old. And that experience was basically, I closed my eyes one particular night, and there was no imagery and there was no audio in my head whatsoever. It was just blank. It was completely empty. Yep. And then in the next moment, I actually noticed thoughts coming into my consciousness. And I immediately realized, oh my God, those thoughts are not mine. They're coming on their own from somewhere, but it's not me. And I call it the voice in the head. Yep. And I guess that's what people can refer to the mind or the ego. It's a voice in the head. And it is possible to actually go beyond that voice to something which is prior to the voice. And then you can observe the voice from that space. So you can see the voice coming in, and it may be maybe a happy voice, maybe an excited voice, or maybe actually a very upset voice, a stressed voice, a complaining voice. But it is a voice one way or another. So for me, meditation is being able to go back to that time when I was a kid, or to the same sort of place where I can absorb the voice, so that I can see where it's coming from and what it's doing, what it's saying. And the more you absorb the, the more you become aware of the voice kind of quietens down, reduces in intensity, and then you can actually start to see that it's not something real, it's actually quite false. So a lot of the issues and problems that I have, whether it's anxiety or stress, or whether it's anger or depression or anything like that, is basically based on a false voice in the head. They're not real. So you're asking me about meditation. I guess initially in my later years, I did a lot of philosophical research, reading the book The Power of Now and, other things. And it was all very interesting, but at some point it dawned to me that it's not in philosophy at all. It's not in thinking. There has to be a practical aspect to it. So I find meditation different to what I imagined it to be. I thought it was very airy-fairy and very fluffy sort of stuff, but it's actually extremely practical. I think one thing that I've learned with meditation is that a lot of people expect something in return. So they do meditation and they expect something in return. And what I found, and I think Buddha speaks about this a lot, is that you don't really gain anything in meditation, but what happens is something is taken away from you. So for people out there, maybe that's not such an interesting prospect, that you'll do meditation and you will gain nothing. But what you will happen to you is that you will lose part of your identity that is problematic, and in losing that, a peacefulness reveals itself to you, which was always there. So that's why they say you gain nothing, because what remains is something that was always there. But it's probably difficult for people to imagine that. So it's actually a process of removing, not a process of addition. You will not add anything to yourself when you meditate, but you will take away the constant stream of thinking.
Yep.
And then there are benefits with that, but the benefits are not new. They've always been there, just covered up.
What sort of stuff do you do? Like, do you meditate at, night? Do you have a routine that you do, and how long do you normally do it for? How did you start meditation, in your, late 20 or early 20? And what do you do now? Do you change as you go? Do you change different styles of meditation? Or do you stick to the same?
Well, I would recommend to people out there to find a meditation technique that really works for them, and then to stick to that technique for as long as they can. There will be a point where they may need to change the technique because they have progressed, or they need to go in a little bit deeper, so then they need to find a new technique. But one thing that I learned is that in large, there's two types of meditations. One is yoga and the other one is tantra. Yoga is, in my understanding, and I probably not 100% correct, but my view of it is that yoga is about controlling. So if you have a situation which is not very pleasant, how do you go about controlling that situation? You can also go about controlling your breath, and you can also go about controlling your mind. So you got negative thoughts in your mind and you observe them and you try and control them. So in large, that is yoga. It's a system of controlling, the environment and your thoughts and your breathing. And then the other one is tantra. And tantra is quite the opposite of yoga. There is no control in tantra. So in tantra, you actually observe what is happening with the environment around you. And that's all you do. You just observe. You also just observe your breath. So you don't need to speed up your breath. You don't need to slow down your breath. You don't need to deepen it. You just watch it and see what it does. So there's no real effort or intelligence involved on your behalf. It's just a matter of patiently watching what it actually does. And that can be applied to the mind as well. What is my mind doing right now? What is it thinking? What is it coming up with? So it's just a matter of actually observing. So that is my meditation technique that works for me. I cannot do yoga because I found I'm actually not a disciplined person. So I assume that people who are disciplined and like routine will find yoga easier to do. And then that's the right kind of meditation for them. People like me who are spontaneous and can't do routine and they're not very well disciplined, then I found that some sort of tantra technique was really good because I didn't actually have to do anything, and I didn't have to have a set time. I don't have to do it in the morning or in the evening. I can basically do it any moment, any given moment of the day. So I don't have a routine. I basically do it whenever I remember to do it. So to give you an example, in the morning I do it. if I wake up and I remember to just be present and be aware of my breath and be aware of my surroundings, I will do it then. I will do it in the shower. The shower is amazing. A lot of thoughts come in when I'm in the shower, but like if I can just turn my attention to the feeling of the water running on my back, to the silence in the shower space, to the light coming through, suddenly like there's a slowing down of those thoughts. Do it while I'm having coffee. Just be aware of the coffee, how it touches your hands, how it touches your lips, the coffee, the taste actually going into your mouth, down your throat and into your belly. So it's just, you don't have to put time aside for this kind of technique. It's actually just being more deeply present in each moment. And that's one of the ways you can do it. It's just being there, what's happening right now, because it is happening. I'm eating breakfast and now I'm driving a car. I'm present of that. What does the steering wheel feel like in my hands? What do I see outside? What's the immediate environment? Eckhart Tolle has an excellent video on this called What is Meditation? And he talks about that. And when I saw that video, I kind of realized, wow, this is not something that I have to put time aside to, but I can do with pretty much anything in my life. So that's probably what I do on a daily basis. And I've been doing it today, for example, and you find that there's a build-up. The more you do it, the more you end up doing it, and you apply it to more and more situations in your life. So, emotions come into your body, like negative emotions, then you observe them, rather than fighting with them and sort of trying to analyze them. It's just, okay, there's a tension in my stomach where, let's just let it be there. Let's see what it is, what it's trying to show me. And then sometimes you get insights. So you might see where that emotion is coming from and why it has gotten there in the first place. Yeah. Because there's clarity. Driving home in traffic, I wind the windows down sometimes and I just listen to all the sounds and I'm silent. It's like the city traffic becomes like a symphony, a beautiful thing. Rather than being busy and crazy, it's actually like an amazing, beautiful symphony. Right in the mind and you listen to what's happening, there's nothing wrong with it, One of the benefits I found of meditation is that say you're meditating and you're learning a few things, but you're learning things about yourself and certain aspects of you actually erode away. So you actually become less reactive in certain situations. Mm-hmm. So you become less stressed or less angry. So it's not just that you're meditating at this particular time, but it has some flow-on benefits later on. So what I found by surprise sometimes, I would be in a certain situation and I would come out of the situation and I think to myself, oh, I didn't react as much as I did before. I didn't get angry with that person, or it didn't really stir me like it used to do. So then I realized, okay, well, I've done some work on myself. And this is one of the benefits. It's not complete yet, but that's one of the, and you slowly become less and less and less reactive. So the other thing is that you catch yourself in the moment. So you don't necessarily meditate when you're at work and you're stressed, but you catch yourself, oh my God, I'm stressed about this particular situation. So suddenly there's an awareness of it. And you haven't necessarily brought it on. It's just there sometimes, maybe in little increments at first. But actually what I noticed, say, with anger, sometimes you catch yourself maybe an hour or 2 hours later after you've been angry and you think to yourself, oh my God, I was so angry 2 hours ago, but that was 2 hours ago. And awareness only comes in now. But as you meditate, eventually you catch yourself being angry in the moment. And you can't stop that anger because it's already happening. But at least now there is an awareness as you are being angry. And slowly it progresses to you actually becoming aware as you're about to get angry. So you start to see how it actually ramps up, how your thoughts or your opinions or your emotions is leading you up to become angry. So now you're catching it before it actually happens. And eventually you start to see a pattern. I started to see a monthly pattern where things would be really good for a couple of weeks. And then for some reason, every 1 week out of 4, there would be like a massive started to see that pattern. And I couldn't work out the pattern, but I just became aware of it. And the more you become aware of it, the more you can resolve it without just because you're aware of it. And then from the monthly pattern, you become aware of the weekly pattern. And then from the weekly pattern, you become aware of the daily pattern. So you notice that there's a daily pattern where, you may be happy at lunchtime, but then, come 3, 4 o'clock, maybe something happens on a regular basis that kind of, stirs you up.
Yep.
So, and all it is just an awareness. You're not it is meditation because it's awareness. So I think whenever you introduce awareness, then that is the byproduct of meditation. Yeah. So you don't have to continue meditating. It's kind of like the example that I have. If you want to desperately get to the beach, you need a vehicle to get you there. So then you find a car and it takes you to the beach. But then when you get to the beach, you forget to get out of the car. You stay in the vehicle, right? So meditation is the same. It's just a vehicle designed to take you to a place of not thinking. But eventually you need to let go of that meditation technique anyway. Once you've gotten rid of thinking, you don't need to meditate anymore because that would be thinking in itself. They're not to be afraid when they are angry or upset and it's too late, not to kind of go, oh, damn it, I'm angry again, because then that's the mind coming in again, judging the fact that you are angry. So it's just like, okay, I'm angry, and where's this anger coming from? Is it from my stomach? Is it from my chest? Just observe rather than criticize. So don't criticize yourself either. What I noticed is when I started meditating, at first nothing was happening, but eventually I think you must do it. You can't just listen to someone talk about it. So if anyone listens to me about it, like they've got nothing, because the result is always a practical, physical result. But then when you do get a result, when you get a little bit of stillness, or when you get clarity in the mind or clarity in the body, then you've got something. Then you kind of go, that does work, and it did do something for me. So I think once you can get to that point where you have even a little moment where you've experienced a bit of depth or a little bit of clarity, then it's enough to actually make you want to do it again and to remind you. My first encounter maybe with meditation was a positive one, and then I didn't do anything for about a year. So that's something that people need to be aware of as well. Like you may get a result while you're meditating, and then you will actually run away from it in a funny way, because the result is so good, but somehow the mind kind of runs away. So I had a result, and then for a year I did nothing. Yeah, it's important to get a taste of it, and I just want people to know that it will come and go. And that's been my experience. It's not like once you taste it, you've made it. It kind of comes and goes. And I used to be concerned because I'd say, I've lost it. Like I had a little glimpse of something and I've lost it. And for a few months, I wouldn't get it back, sort of thing. But it seems to come back in little waves.
Is there other people that you found helpful through your journey as well that you could share?
Yes, I found Eckhart was the first person, and then I came across Adyashanti on YouTube, and I watched a lot of videos on by Eckhart and Adyashanti, and I found that those videos were actually sometimes better than books, because in the videos I could see the person, I could hear their voice, and I could get more of a sense for the person. Also, the books sometimes a little bit formal because they are written for an audience. Whereas when you watch these people in video, they're actually more personal, so you can see their humor or the human side. And I think for me that was really important. Eckhart's actually quite a humorous person. And when you look at people like that, to see that they're humorous is really important, because we think meditation is something serious and, and it can be, but there's joy and beauty behind it as well. So when those people show it, it's beautiful. So Eckhart, Adyashanti, I'm a big fan of Osho as well, and Robert Adams, which is a person who he's passed away, but I see a lot of his posts online, and I think there's a progression. I think people need to listen to their own sort of intuition. And then there was times when I would watch something by Eckhart and I think, I don't want to hear this today. I want to hear Adyashanti or someone else. And that's totally fine. So always listen and look into things that you need at that moment. If they're not interesting you, they're not doing anything for you, switch it off, or or turn the book, close the book, because it's not working. I used to subscribe to all these people on YouTube, and then every day I'd go to my YouTube account and there would be videos from all of these people, and I'd always pick the one that resonated with me the most on that day. So it could have been anger, or it could have been death and life, or death and birth, and it was pretty much always the right video to watch. I'd ignore the other ones and I'd watch the one that kind of spoke to me at that time. Yes, you've got to follow your intuition.
Do you also listen to audiobooks, or you read more audiobooks?
I've listened to a couple of audiobooks, but it's mostly videos and books. Videos is maybe 70%, and then books 25%. But what I'm finding sometimes is the short phrases can be really powerful. So something that I've learned from Eckhart is, if you read something or you come across something that speaks to you, it's more important to actually go deeper into that and not read anymore, because the mind wants to read more. But if you've read a little phrase that spoke to you, it's important to internalize it. So I had a moment like that at a particular weekend where I was reading something and it really made sense, and I had the sense of closing the book and going out for a walk, and I did, and it was one of the best walks I've ever had. Because you don't always need more. Actually, less is better. What I've realized is that some people make meditation to be something like really big and maybe unachievable or unattainable. But I believe that people who go fishing and just sit in a boat and fish and are calm and at peace, that is a form of meditation as well, because those people are there, their mind is not going crazy, they're relaxed and at peace with nature. So I want to encourage people that even that is a form of meditation. Or I often thought about, the surfers who go into the ocean and they spend hours and hours in the ocean just surfing and waiting to catch waves. And I remember people saying, I'm just there, it's just me in the ocean and the waves and nothing else, and I think that's a form of meditation too. And people can take courage from that, because it's about relaxing the mind. So anything like that where you're relaxing, reading a book, or knitting, or going for a walk in the forest, and or swimming like that is a form of meditation. So it happens naturally. And I think if people can introduce more in that into their lives, then it'll make meditation a little bit easier as well.
Thank you everybody for tuning in today. Before we finish, I have a few things to say relating to the talks today. Why is it so difficult to live in the now? Living in the now can be quite difficult for most of us, because we are always encouraged to think about the future or dwell on our past. It's good to think about the past and future sometime. For example, our past on success and mistake we can learn from, and planning for the future, we prepare ourselves for what to come. But the problem is, most time, we can be obsessively thinking about it to the point that we start to feel sad or anxious. This is when I found practicing mindfulness or meditations balance our thoughts of the past, present, and future. It can be hard to say how long before we reach there, but you are balanced when you worry less and experience less stress. For anyone who haven't tried meditations or practiced mindfulness, I would like you to know that when we engage in mindfulness or present moment meditations, we are not ignoring or denying thoughts of the past or future. We are simply choosing not to dwell on it. To finish off, I would like to wish everyone happiness and good health. Thank you everyone. Please like and subscribe to my channel.